The Bostonian versus the Book.
That was Aaron Rodgers' thing. To your quarterback in the first round.
Yeah.
It's a luxury pick. We don't have the luxury. We're trying to win right now. I'm in a window right now, and you're going to say, no, we're going to plan this for the future. With a guy who had 4 seasons ended by injury. 4. Like, Michael Penix is a walking injury. Like, what are you doing taking him in the top 10?
The Bostonian versus the Book.
And now you have to qualify in these majors. You got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness. And I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. Mm-hmm. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Ferrall coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Ferrall has taken over. Let's go. It's Ferrall. Coast to coast.
Steaks, chicks, stacks. You and I are going to make a lot of money.
It's Ferrall. Coast to coast.
And we are back, Ferrall, coast to coast, hour number 2 here on a Tuesday. Carver High and Joe Lisi. Go for the 2, Joe Lisi. In for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. Great to have everybody with us here today. Big hour 2, Coach Young will be by later with the Lion's Share. We've got Davis Maddock as well with his action for tonight. And you have me and Joe getting ready for Indiana-Boston Game 1 tonight. We've got to get into some of the hockey. We've got all the baseball for tonight as well, and I got football for Joe later, which I know gets him very excited as all these clubs, all these teams have OTAs this week, which means we actually get some coaches and quarterbacks doing some talking, which we always love. Here it is, Joe, as I promised you, the most bet player props for the Pacers and the Celtics tonight. Let's go. Jaylen Brown over 24.5 points. That's your guy. Halliburton under 3.5 threes. Under the threes for Halliburton, Joe. Tatum under 5.5 assists. Siakam under 7.5 bounds. Halliburton under 8.5 assists, which is minus 145, by the way. Halliburton, he racks up the assists, Joe. I mean, he averages right around that number. I see 10 assists for Halliburton tonight. 10.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go points and let's go threes then. If everybody's going to bang his under tonight, I'm going reverse. I'm taking the Pacers. I'm taking Halliburton for points and threes. What do we do with Siakam? I don't know. Bounds? You want to get Siakam for bounds tonight? 8 pounds.
I don't like the bounds for these guys. Bounds, unless it's a very big, heavy Joe who you know is going to get a lot of bounds, like a Joker or one of those. I don't like the bounds with these guys because some of them, Joe, they don't have the commitment to the glass. They just really don't. I don't want to be involved with some of these guys like Siakam for bounds. That's not for
glass. I love it. Commitment to the
They don't
cup.
have commitment. They don't have commitment to the glass. Now, you want to get involved with some threes, I'm more than willing to get involved with that, Joe, if you want to start going downtown. Anybody for threes you want to do?
Naismith? Naismith? 4 threes for Naismith.
How about, 3 is plus 250 for Naismith for 3 threes. Why do you need to go
All right,
to 4?
so let's do 5 for Halliburton, 3 for Naismith.
Halliburton for 5 threes is plus 225.
All right, and let's go Naismith for 3.
For 3? You don't want to put a Celtic in there? You don't want to get a Celtic in there?
Yeah, let's do Tatum.
For how many? He's been tricky with the threes. How about Brown for 3 at plus 180? How about Jaylen
All right,
Brown?
that's good. All right, Brown, Naismith, and Halliburton.
Now you playing
Three,
I don't know why
5.
I'm asking this. You playing them separately or you putting them all together?
What do you think?
I'm asking the wrong guy. You're obviously going to put them all together. So that's what you're going to do.
I'm going to actually add a cherry on top. Over in Boston, Tampa Bay, that got me last night. I think they're poised. We'll alt it up
You're
to
going
10
back
and a
to the
half,
well
11.
with that, huh?
Going back
You're
to
going
the
back
Trop.
to the well with back to the Trop for tonight. All right. God bless and good luck, Joe, if you could do that. We've already given you the series odds. Obviously, Boston's heavy here. They're -9 Bills, plus 600 for the Pacers at this point. There it is. East Final MVP, Joe. Now, you know they do this at the end of the series. Tatum's the favorite for this. Let me bring it up for you. I don't have it right in front of me. I know the guys have it here. They'll get you the there it is. So Tatum, Joe, is the favorite, but some good prices for Jaylen Brown. What if the Pacers win, Joe? Halliburton 11-1 to be the MVP of the Eastern Conference Finals. Do you like it?
I like it, but Siakam at 18-1 and even Turner at 80-1 is more juicy for me. Give me the big. Give me the. I need the meat on the bone, Carver. I don't want the fat. Give me the lean meat. Give me the.
Tell me 11-1 for Halliburton's not good enough for you? 11-1.
It's good, but a lot of people are going to bet him. Nobody's going to bet Siakam. Maybe he has a couple of triple doubles. Triple doubles for Siakam.
You get so greedy sometimes, Joe. That's the biggest problem.
You know what I feel like doing? Just as an outlier, we should take the Pacers to win 4-0. Just in case.
All right. You see, Joe, you brought me in a little bit, the 10.5, the 30-1 for the whole thing. You've brought me in a little bit, and then you just have to go and you go a bridge too far. You go a little too far with me there.
Gotta be like
taking
what?
Him to go 4-0.
6 feet of 1?
You really want to know?
You're curious. That's why I know. I know you. God,
it's actually 80-1 for them to sweep 4-0.
That's a great number. Come on.
They
want to
have
put it with the gum?
Joe.
Put it with the gum.
They have no shot of sweeping them in 4 games. No shot.
You're making it sound like
Joe,
it's Bird and McHale walking out there.
So they're probably not even going to win tonight. Okay, they're not even going to win tonight. You want to win all 4 of the first 4 games? Now, Pacers in 7's 20-1. Pacers in 7's 20-1.
No,
at least you could maybe talk me into that.
How about Pacers in 6? Pacers in 6.
14-1.
Now, how could that be?
Because they feel like if the Pacers play a 7th game in Boston, that they got no shot. That's why that's that way. If the Pacers are going to get them, they feel like that if they're up 3-2 going home for Game 6, that's where they would get them. Not in Game 7 in Boston. I agree with that. I can understand why that's the difference in the price.
Boston hasn't lost a road game yet in the series.
Joe, you got him. You just had him getting swept a minute and a half ago.
Well, that's my thinking. I'm just saying the Agos don't think like that.
You can have that theory. The other one I like, if you like this, which I don't think they're going to win tonight, but Pacers to win Game 1 and Celtics to win the series is plus 550. So that's an option for it. Well, that's a good backup option for you, Joe. If the Pacers do win tonight, like you say, and you can have that a little stashed away for you. All right, so there you go. Game 1 tonight. What?
Pacers.
What?
Pacers to win Game 1 and Pacers to win the series.
That is, Joe. She would ask me that a moment ago.
12-1.
Pacers to win Game 1, Pacers to win the series. I got to find it, Joe. I lost it on you.
It's all right.
I lost it. Oh, here it is. Game series double. Celtics to win Pacers to win Game 1 and to win the series is 14-1. 14-1.
There you go. That's a good price.
No. That's not a bad price. You're right about that. So there you go. Game 1 tonight. Game 1 tomorrow night in Minnesota for the Mavs and the Timberwolves, of course. Why don't we start that off, Joe, quickly? We'll hear from Jason Kidd as they get ready to go here. Western Conference Final, little fresh blood on both sides. It's nice to see Kidd on facing the Minnesota Timberwolves.
No, not surprised. They're a very good team, well coached.
Look at that.
Chris is he's one of the best coaches in this league, and Micah has stepped in to help. You can see how good their coaching staff is, but we got to see them in Abu Dhabi, and we thought they were one of the best teams in the league then, and they've shown that on the road in Denver, winning Game 7. So, not surprised. They got a really good team, and this is going to be a tough opponent.
You know,
they got a really good team, Joe. Yes, who is he?
He could be the modern day Phil Jackson.
The way I'm probably going to say no.
Philosopher. He likes to, just think about it. The answers.
Yeah.
Very even keel. He doesn't lose his temper too much.
Yeah.
Modern day Phil Jackson.
Look, I think he's a much better coach now. You want to know what makes you a great coach, Joe? Great players. That's what makes you a great coach. You want to know why Phil Jackson's a great coach? Yeah, Michael Jordan, Shaq, and Kobe. That's part of why. You got to have great players, and Jason's got that with Luka Doncic and with Kyrie Irving. I'll give you the numbers when we come back. Ferrall Coast to Coast on a Tuesday. We're back after this.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
That was Aaron Rodgers' thing. It's your quarterback in the first round.
Yeah.
It's a luxury pick. We don't have the luxury. We're trying to win right now. I'm in a window right now, and you're going to say, no, we're going to plan this for the future. With a guy who had 4 seasons ended by injury. 4. Like, Michael Penix is a walking injury. Like, what are you doing taking him in the top 10?
The Bostonian versus the Book.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships.
Mm-hmm.
So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Ferrall Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
And we are back, Ferrall Coast to Coast, here on a Tuesday. Carver High and Joe Lisi in for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. Great to have everybody with us here today. All right, Joe, I played you Jason Kidd right before we went to break. The Mavericks and the Timberwolves will start tomorrow night, Game 1 in Minneapolis. The Timberwolves are minus 4.5 in Game 1. 207.5 is the total. For the series, Joe, The T-Wolves are now minus 185 with the Mavericks. Actually, I have it at plus $1.50 up to this second, so moved a little bit further from this morning there. I know where me and you lie, Joe, and maybe we're going to let the future do the talking a little bit here because we both I won't even say we both want the Dallas Mavericks to win. I'm not sure if you necessarily like them to beat the Timberwolves if we were talking on an even playing field right now, but we want them to beat the Timberwolves. I will tell you, Joe, I'm a little nervous about it. I am very impressed with what Minnesota has done. You look at the roads, right, Joe? You kind of just look at what each team has done so far, and the Timberwolves sweeping the Suns, beating the defending champs with a Game 7 on the road. That's highly impressive stuff for me, Joe, as we look heading into this Western Conference final.
It is, Carver, but I've still been impressed with Dallas. They knocked off the Clippers that they really didn't beat in recent years. They grinded out that series, and they sort of dominated OKC. I know that Game 6 was a little bit close, but still, they still won that, and Kyrie and Luka have played well. So have they played elite? No, but I think that's to Dallas's benefit. They have gotten productivity from P.J. Washington. Kyrie has been pretty good on the defensive side of the ball, and as great as Anthony Edwards has been, I still think he's a one-man show. I think that Luka could step up in this series. We think that they match up very well against Minnesota in this contest, not just in Game 1, but throughout the 7 games, possibly, and I think the backcourt does carry them. I think Dallas at plus 150 steals it. I really believe they're the better team. They're more experienced.
I hope you're right. I think that factor is true, what you just said, the more experienced part, but I think that Minnesota kind of washes that away with who they've beaten so far, right? I mean, beating the defending champs and beating Joker and Jamal Murray in that group, beating Durant and Booker, I feel like they've earned a lot of experience over the past month and a half. They just have, Joe, as far as I'm concerned. So I'm very, very nervous about this matchup. I think it's going to take monster series from both Luka and Kyrie. Kyrie didn't do much in that series, Joe. He had some spots, that Game 6 that they won. He hit some big shots. But, Kyrie also had games in that series against the Thunder where he had a couple games under 10 points in that series. That cannot happen, Joe, in this series. He has got to consistently get to 20-plus.
And I think he has to nail some threes. I think he hit 2 threes in regards to Game 6 that allowed them to cut that deficit. They were down by 8 or 9 points in the fourth quarter and late in the third and cut that deficit. But you're right. And I think Luka can break out. I think this is the series where it's him and Edwards going toe for toe, going at it, mano a mano. I could see Luka getting in Game 1 35 points, Carver. He hadn't even come close to that in the series against OKC. I think in this series, he can eat big. So we'll see how it plays out. But I think Luka in Game 1 is definitely live for 35-plus.
I gave you the Eastern Conference Final MVP. I have the numbers for the West as well. Anthony Edwards is minus 150. Luka's plus 175. And then you get the big numbers that Joe likes. Kyrie 16-1. Cat 20-1. Gobert 50-1. Jaden McDaniels 100, Naz Reid 150, PJ Washington 150. Look, Joe, it's stars drive these awards, and that's why Anthony Edwards and Luka are where they are. I guess if there's one guy, there's 2 guys from that other group, Joe, clearly that could sneak in and get that, and I wouldn't even call it sneaking in if they won it, and that's Kyrie and Cat, both at some pretty good numbers if you didn't want to go with the straight chalk.
Yeah, I think Kyrie at 18-1 is definitely live, right? Depends on how much and how many shots he takes particular in the series, but he has the capability to break out for 30, 35-plus over the course of 4 or 5 games. So I agree with you. And Cat as well. I mean, Cat had 23 in Game 6? When they won that, I think he came close. He had about 14 in the first half, finished with 23. It's been, Anthony Edwards leading the show. But if Cat could get hot, that could open up Edwards potentially even for more opportunities as this series progresses.
In terms of the numbers, Joe, with only 4 teams left, Celtics are minus 150, Minis plus 260, Dallas is 5-1, and then there's the Pacers at 30-1, Joe, with 4 teams left, 30-1.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it because I sat here last week when they were Game 6,
Joe,
and they were 90-1, and now you're telling me they look appealing. They were
remember
playing
something,
the Knicks.
Joe. They were down 3-2 when they were 90-1.
They were going home.
They were down 3-2.
We smashed them. We should have jumped on the 90-1. We should have. I'm mad at you for that.
Whether it's 90-1 or 30-1, they still have a huge task in front of them here. Okay? They had to win those 2 games against the Knicks. I didn't think they were beating the Knicks.
I'll tell you what. You want to do? We'll get it back up to 90-1. We'll take Indiana. You want to take who? Griot for the golf?
We'll put it with the golf. Why don't we put it with the golf? How about
Griot? Griot, he won it last year.
He won last year. Look at you. I gave you all the info last night on Griot.
Come on.
Gave you all the info on Griot last night.
How about round 1 leader? Round 1 leader for Griot.
No, we're not rolling the dice with a round 1 leader. You want to do a top 10 or a top 20 for the whole tournament? That's fine. I'm not doing a round 1 leader. There's no shot. No shot,
Who made
Joe.
you the boss?
How about Seppi?
You and the Seppi.
Let's put Seppi in there.
It's like you're hanging out with him, drinking on the corner on 86th Street. Can we stop?
Seppi.
We call him Seppi now. Here we go.
Ferrall Coast to Coast here on a Tuesday. Carver, I, and Joe Fiscotti. We're back here.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
That was Aaron Rodgers' thing. It's your quarterback in the first round. Yeah. It's a luxury pick. We don't have the luxury. We're trying to win right now. I'm in a window right now, and you're going to say, no, we're going to plan this for the future. With a guy who had 4 seasons ended by injury. 4. Like, Michael Penix is a walking injury. Like, what are you doing taking him in the top 10?
The Bostonian versus the Book.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Ferrall Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
And we are back from Coast to Coast here on a Tuesday. Carver, I, and Joe Lisi in for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. Great to have everybody with us here today. All right, Joe, so we've got a lot of hoops that we covered there. Game 1 tonight, Indiana-Boston. Game 1 tomorrow night, Dallas and Minnesota. How about the hockey now, Joe? I hate to bring back this memory for you from last night. Unfortunately, Connor McDavid let us down as we chased him again to actually score some goals. but he was not able to do it. But the Oilers were able to win. They built a 3-0 lead in this game against the Vancouver Canucks, and then they had to hold on at the end. A couple of Canuck goals in the third period, final moments, trying but not able to find the equalizer for Vancouver on ESPN.
Block shot! Janmark saved the day! Hyman. 5 seconds left. Hronek's got to hurry. Deflect in the corner, and the Edmonton Oilers are going to the Western Conference Final.
Joe, what impressed me about what Vancouver did in this series, what Edmonton did in this series against Vancouver, is that they were able to get by in 7 games and really didn't get the eye-popping numbers from their big stars, whether it's McDavid, Draisaitl. I mean, Hyman obviously had a few goals in this series, but round 1 against the Kings, they filled the stat sheet heavily. I don't feel like they did that in this Vancouver series, but they still were able to find a way, doing other things, getting scoring from other guys, playing a little bit more D later in the series. And for an Edmonton team that's usually known as all sizzle, no steak, and no D and lots of O, I think that that's huge for them, especially considering the type of team that they're going to play in this West Final in Dallas, who's going to take those stars away again, most likely.
Yeah, look at Skinner's shots on goal. I mean, he only saved 17 shots. That included a 4-minute major in regards to that. He was barely tested, Carver. He had 2 shots in the first period. I mean, that's a testament to how good the defense was for Edmonton. And not only that, they were flying up and down, both teams. So think about that. There was really not that many major stoppages, and they just couldn't get shots off. Now, part of that, I think, too, was Vancouver, and they weren't aggressive in any capacity. No. They were hesitant. The other factor was that Edmonton was all over them as well.
Look, Vancouver went into that game last night, obviously without Besser and without some of their guys, and I think that Vancouver and Rick Tocchet went into that game thinking, we're going to try and win this game 2-1. I think that was what they thought they were going to do. That was the style that they played. Unfortunately for them, when you get down 1-0, when you get down 2-0, when you get down 3-0, that plan goes out the window. And they didn't start to really get aggressive and press until the third period when they were down 3 goals. And it just took them too long to go into that mode. They wanted to play a shutdown game and win 2-1, and it didn't go very well for them. And Edmonton ends up getting the job done, Joe, in that series. Here is Connor McDavid. I got him just for you because I wanted you to see him after not scoring again for you last night. We've been chasing this Connor McDavid goal. I pulled a Joe. I was a little piggish. I went for 2 goals. The guy couldn't even get 1. Here's Connor McDavid on the series win.
I thought we played 52 great minutes. Really, really good.
Where were you?
You know what? Little mistake, that's going to happen. And obviously it gets a little chaotic from there. You can expect that. I knew it was going to be a tight game. Anyone came in here thinking it was going to be some type of cakewalk. It was tight. I thought we did a good job of responding. I thought it was a great time up by Chris to settle everyone down. And from there on out, I thought played a real solid game.
That was your guy. That's your guy. Connor McDavid. You're right. I'm done with him, Joe. I'm on Dallas in this series. So I'm not getting no Connor McDavid for me.
Yeah.
It's Rupe Hintz, hopefully healthy, and Pavelski, and Wyatt Johnston. And these are the guys who we're backing, Joe.
Ottinger, the goalie.
We're going in. These are the guys that we're backing here. Let the future do the talking, Joe. Let the future do the talking.
Let's do it. And I'll just say this about Vancouver. That might be the mentality to go in and win it 2-1. But when you get that opportunity for a 4-minute major, you have to be the aggressor at that point. That was a missed opportunity. When you get something given to you, a gift, you take advantage of it.
They did not able to do that. That was a turning point in the game there. The 4-minute double minor, they were not able to score. All right, we'll come back. We got Coach Young with the Lions share. We'll finish up the hockey later on. Ferrall Coast to Coast on a Tuesday. We're back on the grid right after this.
Bostonian versus the book.
That was Aaron Rodgers' thing. Took a quarterback in the first round.
Yeah.
It's a luxury pick. We don't have the luxury. We're trying to win right now. I'm in a window right now, and you're going to say, no, we're going to plan this for the future. With a guy who had 4 years, 4 seasons ended by injury. 4. Like, Michael Penix is a walking injury. Like, what are you doing taking him in the top 10?
The Bostonian versus the book.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Ferrall coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
late
sort of
night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. The brighter the lights, the bigger the stakes. Hunt or be hunted. Know your prey. This is a whole new jungle. This is The Lion's Share. Brought to you by BetMGM.
And we are back for El Coast to Coast here on a Tuesday. Carver High in for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. BetMGM has got you set up for the playoffs, of course. In fact, 1 second, Bob. Yeah, you know what, Moff? I'll swing back over to that. Let me know, Moff, at the end. I'll do the end tag on the part. We'll go to the Lion's Share. Brought to you by BetMGM. And, of course, Coach Young is with us every day on the Lion's Share, brought to you by BetMGM, as we get ready for game number 1 tonight between Indiana and Boston here in the NBA. Coach, good to see you as always, my man. Let's start with this Knicks stuff that you were just telling me about. In fact, I just went and found the story, which was from our man Pop, Steve Popper, who covers the Knicks, and that is that Jalen Brunson's ready to sign a 4-year, $156 million extension with the Knicks this offseason. Now, Coach, can you please explain the significance of that? Because what does he have left? Do you have 2 years left after this year, Coach, or 1 year left after this year? What was it going into this offseason?
I think he has 2 years after this year, but how it lines up is with in free agent year. If he were to wait, I think he would get, maybe $80 to $100 million more. What basically Jalen Brunson is some people are saying he's not betting on himself. No, folks, you got it completely wrong. Jalen Brunson is betting on the Knicks. He's trying to give them more flexibility to make moves. So by taking less money now, they could do this later. Kind of like what Josh Hart did when he I think he opted in and then he did the extension for Josh Hart. Same thing. What you're starting to see sometimes is players willing to sacrifice money a little bit for the end game of making their team better. So that's a really good sign for Jalen Brunson, who really could have waited, got far significantly more money when he got the free agency, instead taking an extension. Remember, folks, there's also stuff that deals with All-NBA team, which we expect Brunson to make this year. There's a lot of different variables, but by him signing now with the extension, it gives more flexibility for the Knicks, cost them less. Brunson takes care of himself, but more importantly, he takes care of the franchise.
Are you in the camp, Coach, that they should flip Randall for another superstar this offseason and change that dynamic? Or do you think with a healthy Randall they're as good as these 4 teams that are left standing right now?
I don't think they're as good as Boston. And I think it's really going to depend. And there's other things to think about, Carver High. The fact that they have to re-sign OG Anunoby, which will cost them $30 to $40 million. The fact that there's I think, a decent chance that Isaiah Hartenstein is going to be could leave New York, being the fact that the Knicks can only give him up to $16 million a year, and someone can come give him 20. The Knicks can't do that because he was a mid-level exception, so there's only a certain amount of money. He doesn't have bird rights, which means you can just pay whatever you want to someone that's your own free agent. So I think what you're going to see is that's going to be a caveat. Now, to me, I've gone back and forth. I heard Kevin Garnett really be passionate about the fact that, I wouldn't give it to Randle. He understands the culture, so on and so forth. We've seen Julius Randle in big spots. We've seen Julius Randle at times melt down when he doesn't score. Here's the biggest thing. Is Julius Randle okay with the fact that this is Jalen Brunson's team? You're going to say it was both their teams. After he got hurt, this is all Brunson. I think you still move on from Randle because he has significant value, and the Knicks have draft assets that they could trade. I think Randle gets moved in the offseason.
Very interesting. Can't wait to see what the possibilities are going to be for that for the Knicks. A very crucial offseason for them. All right, we have Boston and Indiana, Game 1 tonight, Eastern Conference Finals. Before we get to your lion's share picks, Coach, I will tell you BetMGM's first bet offer up to $1,500. Download the BetMGM Sportsbook app on iOS or Android, or visit BetMGM.com. Sign up and deposit at least $10 into your BetMGM Sportsbook account. Place your first wager and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets. If the bet loses, if it does lose, your bonus bets will be available once your initial wager is settled. That is BetMGM's first bet offer of $1,500. And why not just go and get involved if you want tonight with Coach's lion's share picks, which he is about to lay down for us right now. Coach, everybody seemingly giving the Pacers no shot against the Celtics in this series. What about you?
No, I don't give them a shot either. But I'll tell you what, Carver High, I give them a shot tonight to cover that spread of 10.5. Listen, I think Boston could be asleep at the wheel. We know there's always a game they do this. Pacers still with that momentum of the Knicks series. Boston has not been tested. I think I'm gonna take the points with the Pacers, and I will say this: don't be surprised if I come on here. Don't be completely shocked if I come on here tomorrow with Carver High, and Indiana steals game 1. They shoot at 50% from the floor. They're going to score enough points. I'm going to take the 10.5 with Indiana.
Coach, and you look at the games this year, and I said this earlier, it's hard to translate, the meaningless January regular season games to playoff time, but they scored a lot of points on the Celtics this year. They had some games where they got into 130s, the high 120s. The game they beat them in that quarters of the in-season tournament in Indiana, they scored in the high 120s against them. So they have been able to score on this Celtic team. That is why, Coach, my favorite play of this game is your next one.
Yeah, I'm going to go over 221.5. Think about it, folks. During the regular season, 129, 124, 131, 130, 133, 131. The outlier, 118, 101, 122, 112, and then 155, 104 early to start the season. Indiana's going to do what Indiana's going to do, and they're not facing a team in New York that wants to slow down. Boston could run. Boston could score. Indiana scores. This number is too light. I think the game actually gets into the 230s tonight.
I think we see November, December Pacer type scores. Remember when the Pacer totals were in the high 130s, Coach? 230s for the first 2 months of the season. Yep. I feel like we're going to get up and away with a bunch of these games. Let's get to the props for tonight. We'll start with Pascal Siakam.
I'm going to go Pascal Siakam over 2.5 assists tonight at minus 155. I know he's gone under in 8 of the last 15 games, but think about it. 7 out of the last 9 times he's faced Boston, he's gone over this number. The 2 times he's missed his Carver High is by the hook. I think Halliburton is going to be in jail with Drew Holiday, so who becomes the facilitator? That is Pascal Siakam. Pascal Siakam over 2.5 assists.
A little spicy P for Coach to get some things going. What about Peyton Pritchard on the Celtics side of things?
Speaking of spicy P, Peyton Pritchard over 1.5 3-pointers made minus 120. Over in 9 out of 15 games. He's going to get the minutes. We expect pace. He's going to get about 20 or so. And here's the thing you start looking at. Defending the three-point line with Indiana is porous, especially if Halliburton kind of falls asleep at the wheel. I would be looking at Peyton Pritchard to go over 1.5 made threes. And remember I talked about Derek White leading the series and three-pointers made. His is at, I think, 3.5. That is intriguing. That could be a live play, Carver High. Let the game start. Maybe he doesn't hit in the first quarter. Let it get to like 2.5 and then jump in with Derek White as well.
You see, and what I also like about Pritchard with that number, Coach, is he's one of those guys that if the game gets out of hand, which so many of these NBA playoff games do, he's a guy that will still be out there in the slop if it's a 20-point game. So he's going to get a little bit of burn with the ones in a close game, 15 to 20 minutes, like you said, and he's going to get burned if the game gets out of control one way or the other in the fourth quarter. So a nice way to go and pick that up. Coach, 30 seconds. We'll get more into it tomorrow. Early lean for Dallas and Minnesota tomorrow, Coach. Early lean, maybe for the series early lean.
Oh, I think it's going 7. I think this is going to be buckle up. This is going to be a great series. 3 primary scores is going to be about who defends better, but in shutting down those scoring guards.
It really is. We'll get some selections from Coach tomorrow here on the Lion's Share, brought to you by BetMGM. Coach James Young with us, coast to coast. We're back right after this.
The Lion's Share, presented by BetMGM.
A surprise winner on the PGA Tour. Taylor Pendrith ends up winning his first PGA Tour win.
He was pretty darn lucky to win. Ben Coles should have won that tournament. Also seeking his first PGA Tour victory, he went into the 18th hole, the easiest hole on the golf course, with a one-shot lead, and he was there in 2, just less than 30 feet from the cup.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
Do Leafs fans stop watching hockey now, or do they root for other Canadian teams, Cam?
No, I'm not a proponent of that, and it's actually kind of bothered me that, like, all the people in Toronto are kind of like, oh, now I'm going to cheer for the Oilers. Like, why? What was your affiliation with the Oilers? Like, Canucks still exist. Like, I don't lose automatically and say, yeah, I'm going to cheer for the Ottawa Senators because they're Canadian. No, I cheer for my bats.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
A lot of books, and outside of the New York area, the Canes are actually favored in Game 1 of this series. I'm seeing it right now. I'm looking. I see a minus 115 Canes, Rangers minus 105.
I like the 6 and 7 games prop, like I took with Boston, Toronto, which we now know is going to cash. I think it's got a chance to go the distance. It's going to be a long, tough, close series.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
The Cam Rising stuff last year with Utah, 3 months of pretending he was questionable with a torn ACL, ridiculous.
It's a lot of gray right now when it comes to this stuff, and we really are. When people say we're in like the second or third inning of sports betting, that's why I agree, because there's so many of those situations that are very, very difficult to explain to a novice.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
And we are back. Ferrall, coast to coast, here on a Tuesday. Carver High in for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. Great to have everybody with us here today. Davis Maddock is with us every day here on Coast to Coast. Of course, also Fantasy Sports Today on Saturday mornings here on the Grid. Davis, good to see you as always, my man. And I got to start with this because I've had several people on today, obviously. Myself, Coach Young, Joe Lisi, Gabe on game one for the Pacers and the Celtics tonight, everyone has leaned or been on the Pacers getting the points in game number one. So we get a fresh take from Davis Maddock because he likes the other side.
I don't like the other side. I like Celtics -10. I wish that I could tell you I had a fresh take. If I was going to take the other side of a game in this series, I would take game 2. Remember, Boston lose game 2 against Cleveland. Boston lost game 2 in the first series as well against Miami. That with Butler out, the game that Jimmy Butler did not play, they let Caleb Martin make about 19 3-pointers. I mean, this is the deal with the Boston Celtics. If you add up all their numbers from the regular season and the games they played in the postseason, they're the best team in the NBA by net rating by a lot, by more than 50% over Oklahoma City and Denver, who were 2 and 3. The Indiana Pacers, great offense, Carver. 24th best defense in the NBA. 24th best defense in the NBA.
You are on, like I said, you're the other side. Everyone's on the Pacers except you. You're on the Celtics -10.
Oh,
you're on the other side.
Shocked.
Everyone has picked the Pacers today. Everyone's taking the points tonight. You are on the other side, Davis. You are.
Carver, I literally thought it was so predestined. I didn't consider for a second that all of these people would be on the Pacers. I am shocked by this information. I mean, look, I guess we are just, what are we bored? We're bored of the Boston Celtics. I guess that's it. We are just so accustomed to, we get about to this point, the weather starts getting nice. We're going to the beach on the weekend. We're playing golf on Sunday mornings. And we're like, oh, yeah, it's about time for the Boston Celtics to do what they do and lose in a series to a team they are better than, but not the Pacers. Honestly, I would have given the New York Knickerbockers a better chance of beating the Celtics just because Jalen Brunson. Halliburton has been good, Carver, but come on, man. But the Pacers? 10 points? Come on.
There you go. Celtics and Pacers, game number 1 tonight. Some baseball things for you. First of all, could you believe, because I know you I know you love the Kansas City Royals. I know that's your team. I know you love them. There's no way that you had on the bingo card that they would be the 5th team in baseball to 30 wins this year, because that's what they became last night, as they are now 30-19 and just a game and a half back of Cleveland, who's also been a huge surprise in the AL Central. Everybody thought Minnesota. Minnesota's been so strange. Awful first 3 weeks. Then they ripped off, 12, 13 in a row. Now they're back to losing 7 in a row. But it's the Royals, Davis, that I ask you about, because 30-19, a hell of a start.
It's a great start. More wins than any team in the American League West. More wins than any team in the American League Central. More wins than the Baltimore Orioles, the Tampa Bay Rays, the Atlanta Braves. Now, look, you're right. I do love the Kansas City Royals. How sustainable is this performance? Look, it's very likely to not be that sustainable. Although, to be fair to them, the charts and graphs boys, the Pythagorean theorem calculus actually has them being shafted 1 win. Their win-loss expectation is 31-18. And to be honest, it is all starting pitching for them up into this point. It's just all been getting great performances out of Lugo. Waka was good last night, has been very good. Brady Singer has been awesome. Cole Reagans has been good. Alec Marsh. How about Alec Marsh with the 3.42 whip, or 3.42 fielding independent pitching, 2.4 ERA. Come on. They're going to, if they win 80 games and are just competitive and they make one good trade, I'm calling it a good season.
Well, the good thing for them is that most of these teams in the American League have been average. They've gotten out either to bad or average starts, and I'm looking as usual at the AL West, who, usually Houston kind of runs away and hides the last few years, but what a blown opportunity, Davis. I was thinking of this morning. What a blown opportunity that the Rangers and the Mariners had to completely bury Houston in the AL West with the miserable start that they got off to. And now you go up and look at the board. Because those teams are so average, Houston's only 5 games out of the AL West suddenly after winning a few games. So they'll probably pass them by, what do you say, end of June, July 4th? Houston will be first in the AL West.
Which is insane. I mean, if the Mariners were playing serious baseball, which is so funny because their pitching staff has actually been good, and you would figure a team with Julio Rodriguez, I mean, he's been like way below average. He only has 2 home runs on the season. But yeah, if they had 31 wins right now, the Astros would be like, well, what do we do? You know what? But now they're looking at the standings and they're like, oh, we'll catch them, no problem. And the Rangers, I suppose, are sort of interesting where their old guys look super let them down, and their young guys, White Langford, I mean, guy can't hit yet.
Nothing. He's done 0. All right, 2 plays in baseball for you tonight, Davis. Given to me. You got Colorado and Oakland and the Braves tonight. It is very windy. The wind's blowing out in Chicago tonight.
Wind is blowing out. I mean, look, I'm taking over 7.5 in Rockies A's, which is so funny. But I just look at this and I look at the starting pitchers going in this game, and I'm like, okay, who do you bet on? The terrible Rockies and Athletics hitters or these super mediocre pitchers? And I thought 7.5 runs, even with the ball kind of dead. I mean, come on. And then I basically, I'm kind of at this spot where the Braves, where I'm just buying on them anytime one of their 2 decent pitchers is going and they're better than -150. They're -125 right now. Wind blowing out always makes the Wrigley games fun.
Very fun. Fat total in that game tonight, which we'll talk about later on Coast to Coast. Davis, tremendous job as always. I'll see you tomorrow. We got a Golf Wednesday as well. Don't forget, a Colonial Charles Schwab Challenge for us this weekend. Coast to Coast, we're back after this.
Missed call the entire game, whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called, or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report, and people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer, too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I look, I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
With the onset of NIL and the transfer portal, it is allowing players to develop further in college, and guys that would maybe be stuck on the bench at a power program and not have as much shine are having the ability to find themselves in the spotlight.
Lane Kiffin came out and said we need to get bigger and more physical in terms of the offense and defensive lines, and that's why he went out and recruited that talent.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships.
Mm-hmm.
So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
And we are back from Coast to Coast here on a Tuesday. Carver High and Joe Lisi in for Scotty. All right, Joe, let's finish up some of the hockey for us here today. I never got to give you the numbers for this series, so now we know Edmonton will face Dallas Game 1 Thursday night. Down in Big D, the Stars are -125 for the series. The Oilers plus 105, so pretty close here, Joe, in terms of the odds. I will let the future do the talking, and I really don't even need to do that because even if I didn't have the future, I would be picking Dallas, Joe. I think they have the better goaltending. I think they have the better structure. I think that they'll take some things that maybe Vancouver did with McDavid and Draisaitl, etc., and they'll apply that. I like the Stars to win this series, Joe, but it'll have some distance to it.
Yeah, I think 6 games typically. I think the Stars will win 4-2. I think it does come down to Skinner and Ottinger. I think Ottinger is a little more consistent. We saw Skinner give up 2 goals at the very end. Sometimes he's hanging on by a thread, Carver. So I like Thornton. We need Rupe Hintz back in that lineup, but I still think Dallas does win it in 6. Not going to be easy. Going to be, in my opinion, very low scoring, though. Very low scoring series, blue collar, and that's why I favor Dallas.
Yeah, I think you're going to be able to catch some unders, Joe, in this series. 1,000%. I think you're going to be able to do that. Of course, the Rangers in Florida will be on the Eastern Conference side for us tonight, or for us tomorrow night, Joe, I should say, for game number 1. Here is Paul Maurice, head coach of the Panthers. Panthers starting the series on the road. They got no problems with that.
I do believe in a routine. Like, you want to be able to not be distracted by things. So when unusual things happen over the course of your day, you get a fire alarm, the bus doesn't show up. It doesn't faze you a whole lot. But other than that, we are hyper-routined in how we travel, the time we leave, all that kind of stuff. So there's a nice order to kind of your day. When you leave town, your day gets very, very ordered, right? You're not going anywhere until the bus gets there, but everything sections off. And then you can just focus. These guys get along great, and have long before I got here. They're good, and you know what it's like traveling. It's a good time. Like, everybody's in a good mood,
like
especially in the playoffs.
Joe has a good time when he
getting
travels.
on the road is nice.
I
don't feel any more comfortable going on the road. If you were asking me, I'd take 7 home games all day long. But our road game isn't something that we fear.
No, I don't fear it, Joe. Look, I think the one thing he said is true. Like, everybody, you got a little extra gas when you go on the road, right? You know, I want to make sure I go to my favorite restaurant I always stop at. Maybe there's a watering hole that you frequent on the road. Everybody gets excited to go on the road, Joe.
Yeah, plus it's the Big Apple. It's New York. How can't you be excited? I mean, come on.
Everything's
this is
right
what it's
there.
all about, baby. MSG. You got Is Guy Fieri's place still there? I ate there about 2 years ago. Might have been chopped. I think they shut that down. Chop. Guy Fieri.
Wherever Joe can get the meatballs at, Joe's going to be happy. Whoever's got the meatballs there in Midtown, he'll be fine with. The Panthers are favored, Joe, despite the Rangers winning the President's Trophy and having home ice advantage and all that stuff. Just like last series against Carolina, they are dogs in this series. Panthers minus $135, Rangers plus 115.
Yeah, I like Florida. I'm on Bobrovsky. I can't believe I'm saying it. I think this is
you're
hard
gutless.
play.
You really are. You're gutless.
This is a hard play.
You're so gutless. You trashed this guy for weeks. He's leaking oil. He's what were you calling him to? What were you calling Bobrovsky?
A rat. The rat.
The rat. He's a rat. He's leaking oil. He's all. And then now you're going to go back the guy. You're on him in this series. I don't like that at all. See, I was going to take Florida in this series.
Shesterkin is a much better goaltender, Carver. You know that as well as I do. Shesterkin is more consistent. Steady Eddie. What do you get out of Bobrovsky? I told you, he's Bon Jovi, living on a prayer. He made some saves against Boston.
He's gone further than this. He did it last year. He's gone to the Stanley Cup final. Got Florida there a year ago. I don't think there's as big a gap in the goaltending matchup, Joe, as you're letting on here. I think it's a little bit closer than you think. That's for sure. All right, we got another hour to go here. Ferrall Coast to Coast on a Tuesday. Carver High and Joe Lisi here with you. We will come back. I've got 1 or 2 more things for the hockey, then lots of baseball tonight. Everyone's in action. Joe's looking for alt overs. It's all happening. We're back. SportsGrid Radio right after this.